I'ma say what I feel, and I promise to keep it real. Welcome to the Rant Room. So you wanna be a writer? Well, you gotta be a writer till your fears are diminishing and doubts are behind you. It's hard to grind in the business, got me stressed in the Rant Room. We let that shit up off our chest. You never have to guess when you're listening to Hilliard. He gon' bring more game than a shark playing billiards. It's all about the craft of screenwriting. It's exciting when you turn an outline into something enlightening. Your pen and words are like bullets in a gun. Write what you feel, say what you want. Welcome to the Rant Room. Oh yeah.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Hilliard Guess, and you guys are listening to the Screenwriters Rant Room, where we keep it real, we keep it opinionated, we keep it what, Dalila?
Game all day.
Yeah, on this show we discuss entertainment, TV, film, music, culture, but our focus is always screenwriting, stories, craft, and shit like that. Super excited for this episode. Looking forward to it. Make sure you guys go on screenwritersrantroom.com. Get your t-shirts, get your hoodies. Check out the resources page, the archives, lots of things. YouTube channel, all kind of stuff out there, all right? Love y'all. Here we go. Y'all ready? Here we go. So we got my girl sitting in for me today, Dalila Ali Rajah.
Hey.
I like how she said Dalila Ali Rajah, like she cool like that. Like she grown.
It is my name, you know what I'm saying?
Actor, writer, producer, about to be director,
Yes.
activist, all that stuff. What's up, girl? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yes, I've taken on a new energy shift, so I'm not in that hang in situation anymore. I'm just like, I was like, something had to change because these fascists aren't going anywhere.
Okay, I heard that. Like, way to start. I said activist, didn't I? Y'all bitches didn't hear
I
that.
am who I am.
Anyway, so if you guys are grown, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the show. So today we got my man in the building, Adam Davenport, you guys, actor, writer, activist himself as well. Let me see, acting coach, essayist. What else am I forgetting? Give me 9 more.
Founder.
Founder,
Founder.
yes. Yes,
Of
indeed.
the school.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Thought leader.
Thought leader. Okay, that's a good one.
I like that.
that.
Do it. Illuminator.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the show, Adam. How you doing, my man?
I'm grateful to be here.
Right.
Yeah, I just flew in last night from New
God.
York, so
Yeah. You here for the NAACP Image Awards today?
So I didn't go to the ceremony last
okay.
night because my category was in the virtual ceremony, but I'm here for 2 weeks through Oscar weekend. So I wanted to be here for this conversation. So,
I like it. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, and thank you for Katie for connecting us together, and we look forward to getting to know you a little bit. So let's jump on in. Let's tell everybody a little bit about where you're from, and how you got into the game in the first place.
Well, I was born in the suburbs of Chicago. Fun fact, Harvey, Illinois, which is also the birthplace of Keke Palmer. And so there's a full
Fun
circle
fact.
moment to that. So we ended up connecting years later. But I went to school in the south suburbs, Catholic school, which was kind of interesting in many ways because in many years, I was the only person of color or black guy in my class.
Right.
And so I learned early on you had to, I think that ingrained in me, the work ethic that I had was really ingrained upon me by my grandmother, Mary Piernis, she went to Spelman College. Oh, look at that.
Spelman, 6 generations of family, yeah.
She was an English teacher, so she really instilled in me like the value of education and language. And so when kids were playing in the street after school, I was in the library. That's how I first found, the first authors that I, gravitated towards. So I was writing from an early age, probably from the age of, I was first published when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I wrote this short story, Home, that won a writing contest that George Bush Sr. Gave me the award for.
Okay.
So, and then in high school, there was the predecessor to this award body was the NAACP gave the AXO competition, which was like a cultural Olympics for young people, and you can compete in various categories. So I was the gold medalist for original essay 2 years in a row.
Nice.
And so it's a full circle moment to now, 25 years later, be recognized again for writing by the same body. Right. But I was writing about the same kind of issues even then. So my first time that I wrote about Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit, how my argument was that we're still lynching people today. Right. And it's
actually literally.
Literally. So
unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's wild that I had those thoughts were coming to me as a young person at the age of 16, and just continuing to examine systems and question them.
Your grandmother
and
did go to Spelman, so.
Yeah, that's the through line there. So then I went to Yale, and I was a film studies major. Okay. And then I moved to LA at the age of 21. So I made a short film as my thesis. It was called Midnight Sun. I worked with Tom Stern, who was Clint Eastwood's longtime DP. Okay. Shot it on 35 millimeter.
I bet it looked nice.
Looked nice, but it was expensive. Shooting on film is not cheap, but we shot on short end. So you literally have like a 2-to-1 shooting ratio. So it's like, okay, you didn't get it right the first take. We can go one more time. Then we have to move on.
It's not even about the light. It's about the shot.
Yeah, it's just about the shot. Hilarious. So nobody fuck up because we gotta get the take. But I that kind of instilled in me working with actors at a high level. Melissa Leo, David Harbour, April Grace, who's in One Battle After Another right now. They were all in the cast. Jack Mulcahy played the lead, and I came out here to LA with that short as my calling card, and off of that I got my first agent, and then Keke Palmer's parents reached out to me. They found me through IMDb, and they said, we want you to write a script for our daughter. She had just finished Akeelah and the Bee. So I wrote this script called Oreo, about this black girl who runs away to New York in search of her biological father, who happens to be this Jewish man. Okay. And so that went through the Hollywood maze, and then I wrote other scripts on spec that were optioned, and they kind of went through various stages of development. The project I got the closest with was a film that I was going to direct called I Fought the Law. Audra McDonald was attached to it.
Oh, there's Italian, I see.
Yeah, so another full circle moment. Right. Shot one day of that with Tom Stern in Death Valley. And the financing just never came together, but had a great cast: Melissa Leo, Michael C. Hall, Giovanni Ribisi. Wow. And so I then reinvented myself, because I've always been someone who, if you push things as far as they can, and if you keep being told no, rather than taking no for an answer, I figure out, okay, well, where else is there an opportunity for me? So
you constantly pivoting.
Constantly pivoting. Yeah. So if the director's chair wasn't one that was going to be immediately made available to me, I realized, well, when I do ultimately direct, I want to have that vocabulary to communicate with actors. So let me study acting. So at the age of 30, I moved to New York City, packed 2 suitcases. I found this hole-in-the-wall apartment in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, where I probably was the only person who spoke English in that building, because this was like primarily Russian and Chinese neighborhood.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I found my roommate was a playwright, so he was sympathetic towards my aims, and so he rented me a room for $300 a month. Wow. And that gave me the freedom to just every day I'd take the D train into Manhattan and go to whatever open call was available to me for acting. And then after 4 weeks of that, I got my first role in the ensemble of an opera. Wow. And then...
So we got some vocals there too, don't we?
Yeah, I studied voice when I was a kid. I sang at my church. I was a cantor. So,
okay.
Yeah, so... I got my equity card and SAG within 2 years, and then I just kind of worked steadily on the stage and would do whatever, co-star roles were available to me in TV and film. And then COVID happened, everything shut down, and so I had to pivot again because I was like, I thought that was going to be much longer than it was. I thought, okay, the world's coming to a halt. Where can I still practice my art? And so, of all places, I went to Belgrade, Serbia.
I'll go, wait. Why? What happened? Why?
Like, why was that the choice? I mean, of all the places, I find that fascinating.
Well, my heart brought me there. Love brought me there.
Who did we fall in love with?
I fell in love with this Serbian guy.
Okay.
Yeah, so we connected on Facebook.
Really hot.
Yeah, they're very tall. Dark hair, yeah. So we connected. We were talking on FaceTime for like a year.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting stir crazy in this apartment in New York, and I finally reached the realization we need to meet or we're wasting each other's time. And so what I proposed, he was living in Sweden, in Malmo, because he had left Serbia just because of that country has had a long-standing discriminatory practices towards the LGBT community. So he initially left Serbia seeking asylum. So I proposed, I said, well, if you feel safe to go back there to your home country, let's meet in Serbia, because I couldn't go see him in Sweden because of the EU travel ban during COVID. Yeah, so we met in Belgrade. And I had never been to Southeast Europe before, so I'd never been to any Balkan countries before, and
Did we stand out there by any chance?
Yeah, people sometimes would ask to take a picture with you because they've never seen a black person before in person.
Wow.
People, like taxi drivers, asked if I was a basketball player, or like what type of athlete I was.
Yeah.
So, but I was treated actually really well. There's a saying it's called Serbian hospitality, where they will welcome you into their homes as if they're one of their own, and they love to cook for you there. They love to, So I spent 4 days there, and I was just like flying back to New York crying like, oh. And so I 6 weeks later, I packed up 2 bags and I moved to Belgrade.
Wow.
And so that relationship didn't work. We're still friendly. Sure. It didn't work out.
You were young.
And young, and also just there was the distance factor, because he lived in another country in Europe, and I couldn't get into the EU then. So I had this whole plan.
Wait. So he went back to Sweden.
He went back to Sweden.
And you went there?
And you went to Serbia?
I moved to Serbia.
Wow.
My crazy idea was that it was going to be like a stepping stone to me. So I was going to establish myself in Europe.
Interesting.
I was going to wait for the pandemic to end, and we would, it's a 2-hour flight. So I was figuring 2-hour flight is more manageable than New York to Sweden.
Right.
And so, that lasted for like 3 months. But
oh my God.
I decided to just stay and see what opportunities I could create there, because I realized there was a gap in the market there. There you have all these runaway productions from Hollywood coming to Budapest, to Belgrade, to Greece, to cash in on their incentives there. Yep. And there was no on-camera acting training in English.
You're kind of a big fish there then. Huh?
Yeah, so I started the first acting studio in English for on-camera work in those countries. TIAS, International Acting Studio. So I started in year 1 in Belgrade, in my apartment that I was renting at the time.
Wow.
And within 4 years, it grew from being 5 actors in a living room to 200 people.
What?
That spanned, several countries in that region. Okay. So I would every week commute between Serbia and Hungary So I would have a class, let's say, in Hungary on Monday, and then I would drive to Serbia, teach there Tuesday, Wednesday, then go back to Hungary, and then on the weekend go to Croatia for a workshop, or go to Bulgaria, or go to Czech Republic, wherever there was an interest in having me there. I would whoever opened their door to me, I would go. So that was a big shift for me. I found there were doors that were closed to me here, or that just weren't interested in, giving me the time of day. But I had a very different experience professionally. I had a very different experience in Europe. So there was a curiosity of being someone from America who has gone to Yale, who's worked in the industry for has experience. And so there was a level of not only curiosity but respect afforded to me I didn't necessarily have before. So I just used that to build a community where the knowledge that I had could be paid forward to others. Because in these countries, they have very closed economies in terms of how they create a pipeline for their talent. So in Serbia, for instance, you might have 3 academies where they pick 10 actors, and each year those 2 or 3 dozen actors are the only actors who are then broken into their their industry. Everyone else, and only those 3 dozen in those countries, professional actors are degreed actors. So if you don't have a degree for acting, you're not considered a professional. Therefore, you're not going to be considered for those opportunities.
I've heard that in Britain too. I have a friend who's British, who's an excellent actor actually, but just did not train there. That was actually part of why Femi Ogun's started his school that he started in London, that then had a satellite here that me and Sean went to, is because the black actors weren't admitted into the schools. And so then they weren't considered professional no matter how good they were, because they weren't allowed. They would probably accept maybe like one person for each class, which is not that far from how the U.S. used to be back in the day too for the bigger programs. But,
it's a caste system, essentially.
Like even like I went to Cal Arts and I was one of 3, one of whom was mixed. And that was unusual. We had the most black people that they'd had in our class, and I don't even know how long that there was 3 of us was almost unheard of.
Yeah, I think I was the only black person in my class, too. Yeah, I think you're right. There was a mixed girl who came like year 3 or something, but yeah, everybody else, just me.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
It's quite something.
From your view, from your experiences as being the one of few who's in that space, what were the obstacles that you had to face?
I remember that. Let me just say this. This is just a funny thing. I'm almost embarrassed to put this on tape. There was a Shakespeare festival. There was auditions for the festival. And I can't even believe I'm going to say this. I was coming toward the door and I overheard the teacher say something to the phrase that black people shouldn't be doing Shakespeare. And I remember stopping, but it was straight out of a movie. I remember stopping by the door, listening to this. And I went, I'm going to be the only one who goes. And I remember we auditioned. I was the only person who got in. And I didn't go. I was making a point. I was making a point because I didn't like Shakespeare. It just wasn't me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I knew how to ground myself in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just because of the rhythms of it and stuff like that, I just understood it. And but I never forget that. And to this day, I have this weird thing that I've never been invited back. And I'm like probably the only person still in the industry. All the things I've done, nobody's ever called me back. I'm like, it's interesting. And people are always like, well, if they invited you, I'm like, no, bitch, I'm not going now. No, I would go.
Yeah, I feel like we had Fran Bennett was our chair at the time, who was a black woman, very fierce black woman. But even with that, there was like, I had my first year, again, it was one of the first times they'd had more than one black person. So they cast me and one of, now actually a dear friend, she's one of the godmothers to my kid. in this piece, and the professor was like, I want you to get really black with it. And I was like, and first of all, the friend of mine, she's Japanese, Hawaiian and black, like descended from Hawaiian royalty, completely raised in like Japan and Hawaii.
Right.
My family was
no black culture in there, right?
Almost none, very, very little, right?
Right.
And so I went to the head of the department and said that this is a problem, like that's not an acting note. And she's like, and she was basically like, it is. And she said, and it's a problem whenever I hear it in the casting room, as I often do.
What?
So you need to deal with it how you want to deal with it. I was like, and she's like, if you want to say something, she said, say something. And I know what she was trying to do. She was like, basically, you're going to be dealing with this as a part of your career. I still think it's a fuck shit way to treat a student who's coming in. I think that we deserve to give more care to young people coming into the industry, and that because we had to deal with something does not mean that we have to act like everyone coming behind us should have to deal with with the same level of grace and acceptance. But I did go say something to the teacher. It's so funny because the white people in the class were like, well, he meant like black comedy, right? I was like, no, he meant what he has said. Exactly. And I knew exactly what the fuck he meant, because it was a play written by a black person, but it's like, he's like, well, I didn't mean to, like do it like one note. And I was like, that's not an acting note.
Yep.
Like, I even think at one point, like to like kind of have him dig his hole a little bit. I said, what exactly did you mean by that? Like, what does getting black with it mean? And he's stumbling over his words. Right. And there's a point where, like, Halloween party, CalArts is very known for its Halloween party. It's like a huge thing. Like, the school provides the liquor for it. Everybody comes because it's a very, like, it's an art school started by Roy and Walt Disney. Like, people come in fantastical costumes. And there's one year a whole bunch of folks came in blackface.
Wow.
And I like wrote a whole article to the school paper about it, about why that was a fucking problem. And I even had some black people argue. I said, are you kidding me right now? Like, no, this is not okay. Like, this is not okay. So it's like, it's just having to move through it. And there was like a lot of just, people don't talk about the level of stress that we walk through the world with as people of the global majority in spaces that are majority white, and the expectation for us to hold those moments with grace and not rage. And so a lot of my experience there was very challenging. You know what I mean? Like, it was stressful. They put me on probation at one point because I wouldn't relax my jaw enough. It's like, if you don't learn how to relax your jaw, we're going to kick you out. That's the best thing to say to get me to relax. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like, what are you gonna do in that circumstance other than try and do the best work that I could? But I find myself getting notes from professors that were just shitty notes, and then I'd go and talk to a friend, and they would basically rework entire monologues of mine, like the night before I had to do showcases or whatever, and then I'd perform, and they'd be like, oh, you finally took my notes. No, I fucking didn't take. You're awful. Like, I took the notes of my friend who knows better how to get a better performance out of me without doing whatever this looking down thing that's happening sometimes from not all of them, but like some of them. And it just but there was one, we got Timothy Douglas, shout out to Timothy Douglas, who's a wonderful director who's still working in the theater field, does all kinds of theater. He came in as a guest artist, and we had a black playwright in the playwrights program who was studying under Susan Laurie Parks, and we did a show of hers. And it was the first time, like, I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any problems with my voice. I didn't have, like, I got loved up on, like, they were about to kick me out, and I could tell, and then they saw that performance, and it's what saved me having a problem. But it was like I was being nurtured, I was being seen as who I am. Like, it was supposed to be a staged reading, but like so much of what I put into the performance was physical movement. He's like, yes, could you, I know it's not supposed to be, but can you get off book for this monologue? And then for this one too, and then for that one? He's like, it's your fault. He said, you're just doing all this great movement. I can't have you. So it's like I did the whole thing, and what was not supposed to be a full performance, it ended up mostly being that. And they're like, your voice was free, your this was free, all that. It's like, yeah, because I finally had somebody that fucking believed in me and treated me like I could do what I know I can do, and was not like trying to make me be smaller, which I think is like, in speaking about like what you wrote in your article about Audra, right?
Which we'll get to momentarily.
We'll get to it, but like they want black women to be in a certain place. And whenever we are beyond or expand beyond that place, it is very uncomfortable for people. And when we're able to hold that out, whether or not they're like that, it's just, it's fascinating to watch people have to try and stomach it.
They don't know how to hold space.
They don't know how to, they don't even know how to observe it without like almost like crumbling inside. Like I had professors, they didn't realize that the school was going to give us the notes that they gave directly. Like the professors that came in, they would give notes to the board and to the lead teachers and stuff. And they just literally wrote them out. And there's like one person's like, well, she came in saying she wanted to be a star, but she learned, no, bitch, I didn't. I do still want to be a star. I just also am a good fucking actor. Like this doesn't have anything to do.
She's a scene stealer, let me tell you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's not that. Like these people like wanting me not to own that I want to take up space. Right. I want to take up space. I'm going to take up space. And that makes, in particular, I think a lot of white folks really, really, really uncomfortable from black women.
Let me just ask you, that's some good stuff. Let me ask you a quick question. Back when you were having your school and you were teaching and stuff, what did you apply to the way that you taught, that you learned, that you went, when I started teaching, I'm going to do this? You know what I mean? Just curious.
Well, to tie into what you just said, that you're naming a big truth. How can, as artists, how can we step into our power if your emotional truth is flattened or negated or in your lived experience, gaslit, right? So I don't need to tell you every story where that happened to me, but the mentors that I had who were black women they knew how to hold space. They knew how to see everybody,
right,
and not just their own. So it was through their empathy that they passed on to me. Mentors I had from, Alfred Woodard to more recently Adrienne Lennox, who I started working with in New York, to just by their example see, okay, how am I going to hold space with everybody else? Because I'm probably going to be, especially in these countries, I'm the other, but I'm now in an authority position. I'm in a leadership role. So to not use that to minimize others, but to see them and to truly see them. So that's how I try to create, first of all, a space that is a safe space, because I don't think we talk about inclusivity, but I don't know if we're struggling. Definitely institutional power doesn't know how to create this safe space. So what I actively try to do is to create this safe space, whether you're wherever you're from, whether you're from Serbia, from Bulgaria, whether you're from Ukraine. Everybody is here as an artist to reveal themselves, but you can't reveal yourself if you're being shamed for who you are.
Did you speak any of the other languages?
I was thinking.
No, I mean, I learned a little bit of Serbian. Pričam samo 50 reči na srpskom kako beba. Like I said, I speak 50 words of Serbian, but talk like a baby. But
my
beyond
wife is
that.
half Bulgarian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's interesting that you are speaking to like pouring into people, because that whole part of like the Eastern Bloc, like when me and my wife were dating, I found it so interesting as she started talking to me about she grew up behind the wall, so, and was actually a part of the group that helped to bring it down because she grew up in Leipzig. So like, but listening to her, I was like, girl, y'all was oppressed.
Yeah.
I was like, how I find somebody, the white girl, it's oppressed. Like what? But it's like all those countries, like that's really like what they were dealing with, like from the Communist Party, from Russia, from like all those, that was really oppressing people and trying to, not make them smaller, make them fit into a certain thing. You know what I'm saying? So like, I would imagine that as actors trying to tap into those emotional places, there also is that layer that you deal with as people who have been oppressed or who have dealt with, like in some of those areas, generations of war, where like the trauma of like your grandparents is like real. Like her grandmother, there were soldiers that came and ripped them from their home, and did horrible things to her childhood toys in front of her just for funsies. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that everybody that you were dealing with in that area had some of those kind of experiences that you were then able to perhaps help them lift up something in themselves that another teacher might not have seen.
Absolutely. I think generational trauma is it's not just an idea. It's in our DNA. People are carrying that unresolved pain. So sometimes people, it could take a whole year to give someone permission to feel safe being vulnerable, because in the past, vulnerability, they're suspicious of that because that could be weaponized against them.
Yeah, I think that there's a thing with, I know that we're getting to the article later, but like with rage, like how we hold rage as we've come through generationally in traumatizing systems, that the people who have survived, this is something that I always say is like, as Black people in America in particular, but like I think many oppressed people, like we have to measure rage and grace on like a razor thin blade, right? Like to survive. And that's like, we are the descendants of the people who were able to do that and managed to somehow keep their tenacity and their passion and their fire and their life in the face of these horrific things, and also transmute them somehow into joy and connection. And that's where I actually think as Black people in America in particular, that's our superpower, is a part of being able to do that and to turn it into creative endeavors. And I wonder if there's something similar there, because there is a lot of interesting art that comes out of the Eastern Bloc as well that I think perhaps is shaped and molded out of some of the similar material.
Yeah, it's learning to be constructive with that pain or that rage, as you just said. In that region, well, that's where I was trying to encourage them to see the possibility.
You're like, was it successful? I don't know.
Because I think what I noticed is a different pattern of learned helplessness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So people take that rage and that pain, and it makes them feel that nothing is possible for them. And
wow.
So they'll shut down internally and then project that feeling onto others. So that makes them suspicious of others, makes them suspicious of systems that have let them down before and failed them before. And
I've seen that, yes.
So they get stuck in this feedback loop of naming the corruption, but not knowing what they can do. This younger generation is, I think, being more active. So like there are a whole generation of young people right now, for instance, in Serbia, who are speaking up to, the abuses of power that are happening there. But I think that's more recent.
Yeah. So were you able to then get them to kind of tap into some of those things so that they could free themselves a little bit through their work? Yeah,
but it's like I said, you meet people at their willingness.
Yeah.
So if people, if you can show them that possibility within themselves, but then what I see sometimes is an individual might see like, okay, I recognize that, I'm not ready to do that inner work.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I was asking you earlier about like your style, if you will, on how you taught as a coach. Was there things that, like myself as a people say I teach as a writer, but I know when I do presentations, when I do panels, and I do a lot of them, I moderate a lot of stuff. When I do, it's usually from my point of view of something that, like, I might have heard, saw, witnessed, or whatever, something before, but I always infuse me in there. Like, I'll say, for example, Dalila gave me this great information about this. What I learned when I did it was this. You know what I mean? So it's like always coming from my point of view. I'm just curious of what you did that you felt.
Like your teaching style?
Your teaching style that you felt. Were you able to just be as basic as ever, or were you able to go, oh, this is me and this is what separates me from the rest?
It's a great question. I think my teaching style has evolved a lot. I've been teaching full time since 2020, so now going on 6 years, and I'm constantly learning myself. I see the classroom as almost like a lab. So like you're putting out new ideas and you're seeing what works, and what works with one, you have to meet people at where they're at.
Sure.
So how one person responds isn't going to be the same for how 50 other people respond. So you really have to meet people where they are. The tools that I also have been working with have evolved. So initially I was teaching Uta Hagen's method. Then I came and worked with Ivana Chubbuck and then certified to teach her ideas. Then also I became a Meisner teacher as well. Then I took both, and those are very different tools. Chubbuck from Meisner, they're like
Meisner
having
drives me nuts,
they're like
but yes.
two different languages, right?
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to have some artists who have a fully developed active imagination.
Yeah.
You have other people that have a wealth of personal lived experience, of trauma, of pain that they're willing to tap into to transform into art that could be cathartic. So again, once you're looking at that artist, you respond according to, because you're also not directing them, right? So teaching is different than directing. So you're trying to unlock, give them permission to become the most powerful version of themselves. So I think over the last 5 years, my understanding of how to do that has evolved, because I am continuing to get information about what works and what doesn't work. And I'm human too, so I've lost my patience. I'm 41 years old now. I think I don't take things personally. Like in the past, like if someone didn't do their work, that used to be a pet peeve to me. Of like, why aren't you doing your work, right? But sometimes it's like now it's like try to unpack the reason. Well, why? What led to that, so that I can help them solve that.
That's dope. Yeah. What finally brought you back to the States?
Well, I saw all the changes that were happening overseas in some of these countries that are falling prey to authoritarianism and fascism. And so I wanted to be of service and a vessel to others, but I didn't feel so safe. So I came back. Because I was
just
I'm
in time
queer,
for it to get here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I brought it back with me in the luggage. So yeah, I was trying to avoid all those things that just seem to be happening now globally. Yeah.
At least there's like pockets here though in the States that kind of can help balance it some. Whereas when you're in a totally different country, it's a whole nother layer there, especially with the language difference.
What made you decide to go back to New York as opposed to coming back to LA? Did you feel you still hadn't finished what you started, or what was that? Or you just feel like I'm more New York than I am LA? Yeah,
I needed to take that time because I'd been out of the country for 5 years, and COVID, the world changed a lot over the last 5 years. So I had not been back to the United States since the pandemic ended. So at first I explored. It was almost like I was playing out my own version of Goldilocks. So like which bed was what I should fit myself in. So I did a year here in LA, and I've lived as an adult. Still, I've lived in LA longer than I've lived in anywhere else. I lived in LA for 7 years. New York now for 6. But I think also I like to pay attention to the universe. I always feel like that's like God speaking to you through events. And so when I wrote this piece about Audra, I literally was getting on a plane to New York. And when I landed, I saw that it was starting to go viral. And then all these other synchronicities started to shift for me. And so I felt like, okay, I'm going to listen to this message. I was on the street in Manhattan. People were stopping me and saying, oh, I've read your piece. Are you Adam Davenport? And thank you. And so I started to, I think now in my 40s, I keep thinking about where is an environment where I can build community and create something that and participate in something that's bigger than myself. So I'm not like so ego driven in how I make my decisions. It's like just go where you're valued. And so I felt that question was being answered for me in real time. I landed on the ground in New York, and I right away felt like the conversation that I'd started in that piece was being responded to, and then just other things opened up. So I said, let me go back to New York.
Let me just ask you, though, what is it you saw in the performance that made you go, wow, like I have to write something? Because it's been a while since you've written something before, if I recall. I don't remember. But is that, what was it? What that made you go, I have to write something? Was it the pushback that you saw and you were like, I need to rebuttal that? Like, what was that about?
Yeah, well, a lot of things were happening there. I had been writing as part of my own teaching style. So sometimes when I would ask my students to watch a film, I would help frame the conversation and I would write something. But I certainly hadn't written anything of that length. I mean, outside of like my screenwriting,
Sure.
but nothing that was like in essay form to that length. My own understanding of Audra's performance in Gypsy changed too. I saw it in previews the first month, and then what I saw at the Tony Awards was radically different than what I saw in previews. So I was gobsmacked. I was like, so then,
And that was after the whole Patti LuPone.
that was after
kerfuffle,
the
too.
whole Patti LuPone, kerfuffle, and so. That's what I'll say, kerfuffle. So, and then when I just paid attention to what other people were saying about the performance, it's exactly what you're saying. Of when a black woman takes space, it makes people uncomfortable. So I was right away seeing people try to, belittle her achievement and say that Audra McDonald doesn't know how to sing. Juilliard trained,
Which is insane.
Insane.
It is insane. And I was trying to rewatch it before we did this, which, by the way, it is almost impossible to find any of the performance online anywhere. They've done copyright things on almost every single performance and every single video from that Tony's. You can't even find it. Like, it aired on CBS and Paramount. It's not on their. It's not on their website. Nothing.
You think they'd want?
You would think. You would think I can find Patti LuPone's performance everywhere. But the rage is what. When I was listening to it this time, I was like, she is performing this from a place of power and rage and not a place of I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
And I went back and actually watched Patty's performance too, because I was like, what is everybody else comparing this to? Which is what it felt like it was. They were comparing it to this other performance. And I was like, she's acting from a place of having lost her seat of power. Audra's performance was from taking her power back and from a place of like, y'all done are on some fuck shit and I haven't had my turn and I did all this for your asses. And I am taking my turn. I'm taking it.
I don't care if I lose my voice. I'm taking my turn.
I'm taking my turn. And you could see the rage and I could like feel my scalp like doing that chills thing in my scalp of her like taking this power and letting her voice be rough. She didn't get all light and flighty and shit. She's like, no, I am like, there's like that rage. I was like, yes, girl.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this
Exactly.
anymore.
Yes, and I'm not going to make it softer for anyone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it gentler.
She was looking right at them folks in that front second row. She didn't give a fuck. She was like,
I was like, take it all, girl. All of y'all.
all of y'all.
And the thing is, she'd been holding it together because if you looked at like that back and forth with the thing, the kerfuffle, whenever she was doing interviews, she was so graceful.
So good.
And so just like, I really don't know what that's about. Like very, but it felt like everything.
To the people who don't know, what is the kerfuffle for the people who don't know?
Child. Patti LuPone, who is a Broadway diva and an incredible talent in her own right, was doing, I think it was Roommates, I think was the play. And it was abutted with a theater that was doing Hell's Kitchen.
Right.
And she was complaining that Hell's Kitchen was too loud, which it's a very brown show. She was saying it was too loud. People really felt like that there were some racist undertones and some microaggressions in the way that she was talking about it. She called the lead of the show, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Keisha, because it's spelled with a C, not with but she called her a bitch, in an interview, like outright called her a bitch in an interview about the show because she spoke out about, and she spoke out very calmly. Like she went online and was like, she's made this complaint. She's made it official. I just want to let people know that if you don't know, calling Black people loud is a microaggression. It's something we've dealt with for a very long time. This, like, she tried to really explain it very gently for the folks that may not understand what the history is. And then Audra McDonald liked, just on social media, just liked the post. She didn't say anything. She just hearted the post. Yeah. And they asked her about, and she got angry at Audra for liking the post. And so then in the interview, she says something about Audra and the thing, and she's like, we are not friends anymore. And what else did she say? She said something. They asked her what she thought of Audra's performance in Gypsy. And the interviewer said she stared at him for 15 seconds straight in silence, then turned out the window and said, isn't there something nice today?
Wow.
Like all the shade of all the shade. And so then it becomes a thing because now everybody's asking Audra about it. Everybody's like, well, you're not friends. Were you not friends? Audra's like, that's news to me. We haven't spoken in years, but like, I have no idea what falling out she's like. She's, and you could tell that she's like, I have no idea what this woman's talking about, that has now placed it so that in my run and all this media that I'm doing for the Tonys, I'm having to answer questions about Patty fucking LaPone because she's made this comment about us not being friends anymore. Wow. But a part of what it felt to me after like reading that article and going back, because obviously when I started doing the search, it started pulling up all the things again, was that it felt like you held in all of that grace for all that time, which is what we often do, I think, is, well, especially as Black women, like we try and be, because the angry Black woman trope is like a thing. Right. It's a real thing. Like I could be speaking like this. Don't be so angry. Girl, sit down, Susan. Like I'm not angry. I'm just speaking. Now my tone may be firm, which is not the same thing as me being angry or yelling. Like it's all of a sudden your gentle sensibilities have a problem. And it's something that people have been tuned to. In Black women.
Just a sidebar. I had to. I don't want to say train.
I'm sorry for all the Susans out there. I'm sure you're lovely.
I had to. My husband had to learn. He's a white guy. My husband had to learn that when I'm angry, I'm taking you by the throat. Oh. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm not angry. I'm passionate. I'm excited. I'm whatever it is. You know what I mean? Believe me, I'm like, and I'm talking like this. It's like, why are you raising your voice? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just having a conversation. I'm excited. This is a passionate conversation. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I'm angry, you're not here. You're on the ground. and I would never hit you. You know what I mean? So, I don't. So but he had to learn that that means nothing. We're just having a great. And then he started getting around the family. He's like, oh, I see you.
Yeah, my whole family. We all.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
all of us. Every single one. Yeah. Just most of us loud. Just loud. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's it felt like that performance, she focused all of that rage and all of those things into crafting something entirely different than what that piece is usually seen as. Right. And the way the characters usually seen, she like took it to a whole different place, as you talked about in your article and the way that you wrote about it.
But let's get into it. Let's get into the article. Like, where did you post it and how did it spread? And like, let's get into it a little bit.
So it started as a conversation in my acting class. I was like, hey, if you missed this over the weekend, please go watch this, because what I recognized was that this was like a defining moment in our culture. Like this is gonna be studied decades from now, alongside Nina Simone at Montreux, Aretha Franklin when she did Nessun Dorma at the 98 Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston singing the Star Spangled Banner. These were instances where Black women recontextualized pieces from the canon and put their own unmistakable stamp on it. And they took ownership over these pieces that were pre-existing. Right. And so, because I'm always trying to, broaden horizons and show them things that otherwise they might not, find otherwise. And so, yeah, I just remember sitting at LAX and I just like start writing little pieces, and then the plane's like, as it's taking off, I'm like, okay. I bought the internet on the flight just so that I could keep adding. I was like, oh, I posted it. I was like, oh wait, I want to say something else now. Oh, now I want to talk about how they did this to Halle Berry and how they did this to, and so yeah, I just kept expanding the piece on Facebook, and then I was kind of satisfied with it, and then went to sleep, and then woke up and saw that people were sharing it, and that
people started picking it up.
People were, people were joining the conversation.
Right.
You know what else it reminded me of? Lena Horne did this special, I think it was for PBS, where towards like one of the defining moments at the end of the performance was her doing Stormy Weather. But a part of what she talked about was that she had never been allowed to sing it the way she wanted to sing it. Because they always wanted the edges smoothed down. They wanted it whiter.
Right.
They
No runs.
No soul in it. And she'd always had been forced to perform it that way.
Right.
And she said, I'm going to perform this song today the way that I want to perform it. And it is incredible and has a similar energy to it, where like she's putting all the soul and all those things and all the stuff that she'd been forced to like stuff down over the years, as one of the few Black women who was a lead in almost anything. And that, seeing her as a light-skinned, quote unquote, digestible version of Blackness is why she had a career for a long time. But that means that they didn't want to see any, and she was a very black woman, but they didn't want that to be the public image of her, because they were worried about what that would do to her career, the people who were making money off of her, and that she reclaimed that part of herself in that performance. And it felt like a very, very similar thing, with even more of a like a in it. Audra she's just a beast. She's amazing.
It's one of those videos you watch, and I watched it live, on the Tonys, but it's one of those things you watch where it's hypnotizing, because I do remember watching it, going, the first time going, whoa. It reminds me of this. When I was an actor, and it's been many years, people used to say, God, you book a lot. What do you do? And I used to say, coming from theater, I would do it like theater first, intentionally. Like you got to have your why, right? And then they would go like, whoa, okay. Can you bring it back? And I'd be like, so glad you asked me to do that. Now let me bring the tone down right to here, right? And they'd be like, wow, he could take great notes. He's so easy to work with. I'm like, bitch, I practiced that.
Look at him with his adjustments. He's so good.
You know what I mean? And so that's why I was like, word, let me rewind that again. And then I watched it, and then the tears really started to come. Yeah. And then I watched it, and the tears kept coming. You know what I mean? Because now I felt all the things you're talking about. At first, I was just like, whoa. And then I was like, whoa, let me sit in the pocket of what it was she was trying to do here. And then I started imagining, we all are actors, being on that stage and her why. She was doing it this way. You know what I mean? Like you said, the performance changed. I wonder if the night before she did that same version. I don't know. I'm curious to know if it was that version or if that was her version in front of the people at the time. You know what I mean? I'm sure, I don't know if you know something I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, she read the piece. This was a full circle moment for us, because we were supposed to work together on this film that I was going to direct. And one thing that I haven't talked about publicly ever really is that there was one, when I'm taking meetings to make the movie, there was one entity that said, oh, if you recast this Audra role with a white actress, they gave their list.
Of course they did.
They were like, we think we can get this done. And I held my guns, and I was like, I was so insulted. I was like, wow. She had just won. At that point, she hadn't won her 6th Tony, but she had just won for Lady Day. So I was like, no.
That was incredible, too.
I was like,
It's like, why would you want that?
Why would I get her in my first film? Why would I recast her? That would be, I just seemed inconceivable. So I just said, okay, next, and I didn't find that the right team of people that were down with that casting. Right. So that's also why it resonated with me at this intercellular level too, because it was literally speaking to my own lived experience as a storyteller of pushing things through. So I think George Wolfe, this is also a credit to George C. Wolfe as the director. Yeah. He meticulously uses the previews to work and continue to shape the material. Right. So I saw it literally early on at the beginning.
Sure, they were still workshopping.
They're still working on it. So then it's like once a role settles within you, and then you can really start to find those choices and to keep going deeper. I then saw it after the Tony performance because then the producer of the show, Tom, he reached out and offered me tickets, and so I saw it a second time, and it had even evolved past what she did at the Tony Awards.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
That was the most. I mean, I literally felt like I was going to church. I was like brought into another dimension.
That's what theater usually feels like to me, actually.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question. When people ask you about the essay, how do you generally tell people about the essay, like the elevator pitch, if you will, to get them to go take a look at it?
Oh, I just say that I offered insight into Audra's Tony performance that puts her in the lineage of great Black female storytellers of taking one's power back.
Have you talked to her about it?
Yeah, have you heard from her?
Yeah, she read it and wrote me, very, thoughtful message about it. I mean, that's what she said is just between the two of us.
Yes.
But deeply, it felt deeply seen through my words. Yeah. So, and we connected, and we connected backstage and took a photo after I saw the show again. So, yeah. So it was a really wonderful full circle moment, and to be nominated in the same year that she's nominated for her work on seasons. Help me with this.
Gilded Age.
Gilded Age. Yeah.
Oh, she is
amazing,
magnificent. I just love Gilded Age anyway, but like what they did this season and Sally Richardson's directing and just that they put the Black people from that time who were of that whole, we are missing that story so much, and they people didn't know that we existed most of the time, like in those circles. They just don't know until they're watching Gilded Age. You're like, there weren't Black people. Yes, there were. Yes, there were, and they were. Just like with all the colorism and all the layers in there, they were that as well. But it's like getting to see those nuances in there is just like, it's magic. I've watched the last 2 seasons twice over. I love them that much.
I was just going to say that one of the things I love about the article, as a writer, I can tell you write screenplays too, because of the way you wrote it. And let me explain to you why. There's certain ways that certain writers paint pictures. You paint them so that you see them visually in the scope of where it is you're going, if that makes sense. So when I read it, and I was like, this guy's got to be definitely he's written some screenplays in the past, just by the way that you, so the way you use the prose. And there were probably 10, 12 passages that I wanted to pull from and read today.
Oh, okay.
There were literally that many of them. And I'm only going to do one because there's too many. So there's this one little passage you say. She turned Rose's Turn into a protest song, against systemic marginalization, invisibility, and the cost of ambition in a world that doesn't make space for women, particularly women of color.
Yep.
I was like, that's bars right there. Talk about that, because we kind of were talking about that a little bit. Let's talk about that a little bit. What you think about that?
Well, again, institutional starting, because you also have to look at things happen at an individual level, and also things happen at a systemic level, like starting with institutions, and then they have a trickle down effect into how people respond. And so I come from Black women.
Right.
My life is from a Black woman.
Right.
And my biggest mentors and the voices that shaped my own thinking were Black women. And what I became painfully aware of from an early age is that even though you could be Toni Morrison and write at the, I mean, I literally think Toni Morrison belongs in the same sentence as Faulkner, as Tolstoy, as William Shakespeare, and it's taken, maybe now that she's passed on, that she started in this new era of her sanctification. But when she was alive, she was vilified. They tried to censor her work, and so you see this common denominator in the excellence of Black women in terms of the lens of what I'm looking at, where their achievements are marginalized, diminished, or flat out trying to be erased. We did it to Halle Berry when she made history for winning the Academy Award, and saying, oh, well, it should have been Sissy. She just got it for being naked. Things like that.
I mean, that conversation about Holly is a whole... She got it. Do you know how many people have been naked in movies and that didn't have anything to like? What are you talking about? Like, how are you even coming up with those words as like what you come up with as the reason why somebody would all of a sudden be recognized? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just, what you were saying about Toni Morrison. The other thing is that she was unapologetic about not centering whiteness, and I think that is the other place where people have a major problem, like this idea of not being centered. I've been watching this whole conversation about the BAFTAs, which my son is like, Mom, why are you arguing with people on the internet? I was like, part of why is because I'm at an intersection of an invisible disability and Blackness. And I feel like I'm able to have a authentic and more nuanced conversation than some other people. So I was like, baby, I'm gonna, at least until it makes me too tired, I'm going to sometimes interject,
I'm glad we're talking about this. I was curious to know what you thought about that.
Oh, honey, listen. Okay, so there's multiple things going on here. And there was a problem, the more information I found, I was like, Lord Jesus, first of all, they told him.
Let's tell a bit.
Okay, for anybody who doesn't know.
You just have to prep.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, the N-word was uttered by a gentleman who was a nominee for a film that he is focused on about Tourette's and about the challenges of dealing with his particular type of Tourette's, which is the type where he says particularly offensive words. Like, that is the type of Tourette's it is. It is not something he can control. It is a part of the disability. It's just what it is, right? They know that one of his tics is the N-word. Everybody knew this. They made an announcement before the show, letting people know that they may hear some utterances of words that they may find offensive, etc. They put him behind a mic, which makes no sense. He said even he was given pause when he was seated where he was seated and he was put behind a mic. He's like, why would they put... But he didn't say anything, but he shouldn't have to because that's not his job. They had also told him before, because him and his team were concerned about his tics as well. They said, don't worry, we'll make an announcement before the show and we'll bleep out any swear words that you say.
They do on every other show.
And they do, and that was what they were told. So he was just doing what he was doing, thinking that they were going to bleep it. He can't control it anyway.
Okay.
That being said.
This is what I was waiting for.
There's a whole conversation that could be had about like, why is there such a prevalence in our society of the N-word being used so indiscriminately and directed at Black people in such a vitriolic way that it has become a part of the tics along with all these horrible things. That's a societal thing.
That part.
To talk about. That is not him specific. That is a society thing. He's clearly been raised somewhere where that's a part, just like any of his other tics. They were a part of everyday language that became a part of his tics, right? We do not, as Black people, need to have all the grace for all the things without acknowledging our own harm in the face of places where we are harmed. Both things can exist simultaneously. We can say, I think our community and in particular the gentleman on the stage who did brilliant work deserved an apology for the N-word coming out of the mouth. Not an apology for his disability. An apology for the harm done by having to experience that during a particularly special moment in their life career on this day. That the BAFTAs and the BBC did not mute it when they muted Free Palestine, when they muted the F slur that was said to a white man. That there was two other utterances of the N-word, but from my understanding, they were not on camera, so they wouldn't have been heard anyway. They muted all these other utterances. So that tells you where they thought it was important to mitigate harm. They are more worried about the harm caused by Free Palestine than someone saying the N-word. Both things can be true at the same time. He can have a disability. It can be an utterance that he has no control over, and that can still cause harm to someone, and someone can still say, I am sorry that caused you harm. That is not undermining your agency. It is not saying that there is something wrong with you. It is not saying that your disability shouldn't exist. It's not even saying you shouldn't be present at this event. It is saying that there are two groups of people experiencing something here, and that we do not need to cede our pain, our anger, and our rage because someone else has something going on too. We are always expected to do that, even in occasions when somebody doesn't have a disability. We're expected to have grace around every fucking thing. Like, there is so much harm and so much microaggressions, outright aggressions, racism that we deal with on a daily basis that we're expected to just swallow and to never react to. And I don't think that that's okay. And listen, I mean, this is going to sound, sorry, because it's going to be offensive to somebody. I'm giving a trigger warning. There's a piece that I wrote that talks about how many, that we as Black people have transmuted this rage and grace for a very long time, right? And that I feel like it's deeply embedded, or was, in our DNA. And that is the reason why for hundreds of years we have been able to do that and survive through atrocious experiences in this country and many others. But they done fucked around and raped enough people that their bullshit ass DNA is mixed up in here too, and they're about to fuck around and find out. That's why you're getting stuff like the Riverboat Brawl and other stuff. It's like, y'all, now we done giving you several hundred years to get your shit together. Several hundred. And we have managed it. Y'all are very good at brutality, and you're very good at centering yourselves. And you may have given us enough of your DNA now through your fuck shit that we aren't taking that the same way we used to. And I think that this is one of those instances that's like a watershed moment around that, because there's nobody, I'm not saying nobody, there are people online who are like, well, he shouldn't be saying that anyway. Friends and neighbors, anybody who needs to hear this, he really can't control that. It is the disability. Yeah. He cannot control that. So that's just period, right? But that doesn't mean we have to say we have to take that and that we are not harmed because he can't control it. Yeah.
I think you hit it on the nail in the context of my immediately thought. I wasn't like, oh, he said that he has Tourette's, blah, blah, blah. I was like, he said that he has Tourette's. Who taught him it? You know what I mean? Where did it come from? You know what I mean? I went there with it because the habits came probably since he was a kid that he's been talking like that. You know what I mean? So that's what I immediately thought for me. What you think? What you got to say, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, right now, the culture is dangerously trapped in this kind of binary thinking. right? But it's, as you pointed out, 2 or even 3 things can be true at once. So it's like, how do we reframe, how do we get the world's consciousness to understand this? Because this is also one of the byproducts, I think, of tribalism that's putting us in these echo chambers rather than being able to have more constructive dialogues like this that are going to lead to healing, that are going to lead to greater empathy. Right. Your answer was full of empathy. That's that's one of the frustrations of these conversations online, is that they incredibly are empathy challenged.
I think sometimes on purpose too. Like in these responses I was doing, because I was like, I just want to put enough out there that somebody coming here who may not be able to articulate that, or who may be thinking one thing and is afraid to say something, sees at least one response that says both things, right? But people were consistently, they just needed to center the whiteness. It's fascinating. It's like no matter what is happening, there's an expectation that we should cede harm. Like that no matter how we've been harmed, no matter what's happened, you know, that there's some reason why we are supposed to not acknowledge the pain that feels, or and people saying like, well, then you should stop saying it too. I need you to go have several seats, sirs and ma'ams, several seats. Like this is historically, you don't get to say it. You don't. And why do you want to say it so bad? And why do you need us to not say it because you can't say it? Why do you need to be centered in this conversation that has to deal with generations and generations and generations of pain that are it's not even that long ago, y'all. Nope. My grandfather, who is not living anymore but could be, had the cross burned on his lawn twice. Do you know what I'm saying? Twice. And the only reason why they went away is because the neighborhood, and people don't like to talk about this, the neighborhood came out with guns and stood around the house holding vigil, armed, for days at a time until the KKK got bored and moved on to their next focus. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, but you want us, this is my grandfather, this is where my mother grew up. Right? Like my grandmother, there's a white boy who touched my grandmother's ass in a movie theater. She smacked the shit out of him, and everybody could have been lynched and killed for that. Yeah. My grandfather got her out of there so fast. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, that's an experience that happened in front of my mother. My mother, who is still with me and at my house right now. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? You were acting like all these things, besides the fact of all the systemic racism that still exists that we deal with on a daily basis. If anybody needed the memo, Black people don't hang themselves from trees. So that person that was found in Baltimore or wherever it was, like in the last few weeks in Maryland, they did not hang themselves. It was a fucking lynching. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't do that. We don't do that. Yeah.
We don't even like ropes.
That these people are still having conversations in printed news and media as if that's what's happening. Like our parents and our grandparents and us on an everyday basis are not walking through spaces where we may not be safe. Still, y'all. Yeah, so we get to say the N-word. You know, and I used to be like, it's a double standard. Maybe I shouldn't say it. No, fuck that. If I want to say nigga, I'm going to say it.
And I'm sorry. For the people who got something to say about it, there are 2 different words. There's a and there's an I'm sorry, they're 2 different ones. You could decide not to say it as a Black person for yourself, but none of us say
But you don't get to police. But the thing is, the people who are experiencing the privileges of this system that still exists do not get to police how I hold the language, the pain, the responses. You don't get to police that. But they're all trying. They're all trying to police it. And they're trying to make the disability more important than the pain that Black people have experienced for generations. And why do you need to do that? Why do you need to make every single thing more important than the pain that we've experienced? Yeah. And it is something, I think it's because the guilt and the shame are a really hard thing to hold as a community, and the still existing privilege. Because I feel like, we had that, what seemed like a watershed moment after George Floyd, right? And everybody bought all them damn books that are gathering dust. Most of y'all haven't read them. I can tell from your Twitter.
Look, all the programs came, all the DEI, all that came and then went away in 2-3 years.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
What did I say? It's going to be a phase.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, it's because the other thing is that people I think don't like to talk about in our capitalist society is how they commodify Black bodies, Black thoughts, Black Black creativity. And that I think a lot of what happened is during that time, they could commodify choosing to be better, right? And they could commodify that they are helping and that they are making and creating change. With the new farther right people in power, they lost the ability to commodify it at the same rate, which is deeply how much you can see how much people are really committed to it. Because if you're going to lose money and you do it anyway, then I can tell that that's something you wanted to do. Yeah. If you're going to lose money in a capitalist society for something you're doing and so you stop doing it, you are not fundamentally trying to create change around this. You are not fundamentally committed to this thing.
Well,
and,
sorry to interrupt you.
No.
We talk about it all the time about, the Hollywood literally leaves billions of dollars a year sitting on the table because they don't.
I
what I'm saying?
Been able to,
it's crazy.
I've at this point, because I've asked this question for many years, because what people used to tell us is that they follow the green. They follow the green, They follow the green, they follow the green.
Not true.
But it's not true because we see in the data that they're leaving billions with a B on the table, so they don't follow the green. What I do think that they follow, and I think it's, for some people maybe conscious, some people it's subconscious, they need to have this idea of themselves as centered. And the idea that that may not be true and starting to put out too much art that shows that decentralizes something in their own brains in such a way that I don't think that they can hold the cognitive dissonance. I really, especially the people who are in positions to say yes or no, they are very used to the world being a certain thing, and they're used to being able to see that all around them, which is why like their ideas are universal, but ours aren't, even though we are literally the people of the global majority. There is just more of us. But I think that that's what's terrifying, is that there's more of us, that we may take on the same brutality that they have exhibited towards us, and that they cannot.
And we haven't done it yet.
No, and the thing is, we don't want to. Is the other thing. We just want y'all to leave us the fuck alone. Do you understand? Seriously, like that's what Black people for generations have been like. Yo, you don't want to be. That's cool. I don't want to work for you for free. But you want us to go live over there by ourselves? Okay, we'll go live over there, and then we get too successful, and then they burn it down, over and over and over. Right? Like these ideas, you even watch like with Sinners, speaking of Sinners, how they covered how much money Sinners made was insane. Like you're looking at how much money it's making and you still keep trying to downplay it or change the headline so it seems like these other things made more money, or like nobody's ever gotten a deal like this. Yes, they have.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. I mean, a Black man has not gotten it before, but then say that's what you meant, and that's what you're trying to call out. Not that nobody's done it, not that you think that the whole industry is falling apart because now the Black people can get it. Then that must mean, it's over. Those people that we've kept out all this time, they're getting the same deals as the white guy. That must mean something's really gone awry. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, no, like, but I think that there is something internal that's really hard for them to hold, which I think is the same thing with people. I know people that started reading those books, that started doing the investigations of themselves. And I think what they found was really hard to face, because then you have to start asking the questions like, oh shit, if I'm really looking at all this stuff, how many times did I get that promotion and it wasn't because I was the most skilled? How many times did this thing happen and maybe it was because I was white? Maybe that thing that they said, maybe they really didn't mean that, and that person who did that maybe that was just wrong. Like, all of that is a very hard thing for someone to hold, because it's not something they can control either. You can't control that you were born into this privileged system and that you're white. You know what I'm saying? And that, and what they're starting to get now with Renee Good and with Pretty is that when you then align yourself, like if you align yourself with the group that is being oppressed instead of with your white brothers and sisters, you're a race traitor. And then you're not protected by your whiteness anymore. So they will kill you too. And people, I think that that's a scary thing for people too. You know what I'm saying? It's like they are not used to holding not being protected by their whiteness.
Let me thank you for that. That was a great run. Let me bring it back to writing just a little bit.
Sorry, y'all.
We're called the Rant Room, and we got my man on here talking about Audra McDonald. I mean, it's the conversation, and that shit just happened last week. So it's like, you know what I mean. Let me ask you a question. Just bringing it back to screenwriting. Now that you're back in the States, what's going on with your writing as a screenwriter, as a filmmaker, with directing your films? Like, where are you with that?
What you want to do next? What you doing creatively? What's happening in these streets?
Well, I think at the level of teaching and coaching, I'm looking to build the community. So I'm going to start teaching in person in New York.
All right.
Okay.
I was last year I did a workshop in Mexico City, and that was incredible because the people there have such open access to their hearts. You don't have to fight with them to get them into their feelings. So I would love to do more work in Central and South America. Okay. You know, to give them.
He just want to go to the beach and see the boys on the beach. I know what he's doing. I got the videotape.
Which, fair. Go, be on the beach. Teach classes, cash checks. Love it.
We got the videotape. We seen it.
You guys can come too. We'll do it too. I do want to. I have a script that I wrote last year that I think I will start to take out.
Okay. What genre is that one? Just in general.
It's a psychological thriller.
Okay,
it's
good.
kind of I was inspired by Misery, but with LGBT characters.
Okay.
Kind of in proximity, fighting for control.
All right.
So,
All right. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What when you describe yourself as a writer, how do you describe yourself?
That's what I was about
Because
to
I'm
ask him.
starting to see it.
Oh, how do I describe myself? Well,
Okay. What type of themes do you like to write to?
I think I'm interested in issues of identity, control, or loss of control.
Okay.
Right. So like the things that I wrote that were set up before that haven't gotten made so far were mostly thrillers or crime dramas,
Okay.
but always centering some character who is you're using genre to like probe
Right.
some kind of journey that character is going through, that they have to go on some journey of change.
Okay.
Because I think that's
you, Dalila, in a little bit.
Yeah, I do. Like that, and I have a thing around belonging, like finding belonging and protecting belonging. Lonely childhood. I think that there's just something in me that finds something in that, and something in people. Speaking of power, actually, like there is, especially like I have a fairy-centered fantasy world, but it's like the negotiations around who has power, who's allowed to have power, who gets to determine that. Like in the project that I'm like in the throes of right now, there's a group of fae that are hybrids that even the people in their own society they think they're too dangerous because their gifts are unpredictable. They're more powerful often than the other people around them. So even people like them are afraid of them and kind of want them gone for that reason. So I think that like there's the nuances of that, like who gets to have power, who gets to decide who gets to have and keep power. Because I think also like I'm neurodivergent. So like there's a lot of types of neurodivergence that shows up in ways that are disruptive for other people. But it also is often genius, even with the people who are disruptive. So then who gets to decide who gets to be comfortable?
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you want to get back behind the camera, is what I'm hearing.
I want to direct not just on camera but also on stage.
Okay.
So there's a couple of new plays that have been put in front of me. Maybe I'll workshop one and get it on its feet.
I love it.
I mean, I love that some of the directors I loved were people like Mike Nichols and Ingmar Bergman, who were equally at home on stage. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what I want to create for myself.
Nice.
That's dope. I like that. Yeah. So we're gonna open it up to. We have an audience in here today. We'll start with Aaron. Well, we'll start with you, Keisha. You're excited. We'll bring in Keisha Cola. Come on in, girl.
What does being bold mean to you in 2026?
Being bold means being unapologetically yourself.
Yep.
Because we're told to shrink. We've been trained or told we have to shrink ourselves in order to fit in. So I think now we're realizing that's not pop for me. I reached a point where it's like I can't do that anymore, right? So I think boldness means being unapologetically queer, being unapologetically black, I also for years hid my intelligence because I thought because that would make I realized that made other people uncomfortable, like to just be a smart person in the room. So like now I'm not willing to do that anymore. So just to be your authentic self.
There is a whole thing about that too, which I think is so weird. Like there's like a whole contingent on the internet now that's like, if you use big words, it's somehow rude to other people because they may not understand it. It's like, oh, friends and neighbors. Open a book. Open a book. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, look it up. Like you have Google now. I used to have to use a dictionary. Like just do a search. You can find out what that word meant.
Yeah.
I would say being bold for me means taking risks with things you're afraid to do. Which it sounds like you actually do a lot of. Like as soon as you get into a situation, you pivot like that. It sounds like.
It sounds like you leap. Which
Yeah,
I was like, you talking about?
sure.
I was like, after 4 days, you done moved to Serbia?
She's like, hold on. He didn't show you the picture of the dude though.
That is true. I was like, that might have been some good. I mean, you did. I mean, he might have had some good. I'll give you that. That might have been worth the move. But I'm just saying, like, I was like, that is a leap.
Yeah.
That's a leap. You know, I think my bold. I think it's almost identical to yours. Like around the being myself and not being willing to play small. Like I've had a lot of times where that idea of being in my quote unquote place, I've gotten that reflected back to me a lot in the world around me in ways that I used to be like, I don't understand why this person's reacting this way or whatever. And then I realized like, oh, this is not about me. It's that there's a place they think I should be in their heads. And I don't, it's like, I don't know this man. I don't know that. They're like, what are the Kiki prompts? Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know that place. I don't know what place that is. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm not digestible. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, and I've gotten to a place where it's like, if I'm too much to swallow, then choke.
Wow.
You know, I just, yeah.
Introduce yourself, Aaron. I meant to tell you, Keisha, I'm sorry to introduce yourself, but I apologize. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron, writer, TV writer, not professionally yet. Thank you for being here. Nice to meet you. My question is kind of like for all of you, kind of picking back off the last one. Since you're all writers, but you also come from like performing backgrounds and theater. What kinds of things like would you do like in that space to, I guess, bring about like more blackness, like not just for you, but like just for like the environment in general? And kind of what I mean is when I was in undergrad and doing theater classes, now that I think about it, I was the only one. And so what I would do is when I was needing actors, for a directing class, making sure that I got black people in my scenes. And at the end of the semester, when they have like the student questionnaires, like I would always write more plays written by black playwrights because, they had us reading Hamlet and Cherry Orchard, which, great stuff, but, can't relate. So those are just a couple examples of like what I would do to just bring about just a speck more blackness in the play. So I'm curious, like what were like some things that you guys would do?
What you think, Adam?
Yeah, well, like in teaching, most of my students are from Europe, so a lot of them are white, and I would say even with my constituents here in the States, I'd probably say 90% of the people who have walked into a classroom that I've worked with are white. So I think in the last year, as I've become consciously more aware of ways to center blackness into the conversations and to try to bring in diverse voices that otherwise they're not going to be exposed to. So that might even, whether that's talking about Njake Shange for color girls who they would not have any context to be introduced to that, but you can introduce them to that through, for instance, Alfred. They know who Alfred Woodard is, maybe. So then, you know, she was in the original cast of that, so you can give them context through something that is familiar. I've been thinking about this in the context of what.
That doesn't mean doing an all white. What's that? Once on this island.
Oh, yeah.
It doesnn't mean that. Go ahead.
So yeah, you know, familiarity bias shows up in so many ways. So it's like if you're trying to expose people to something that is outside of their own familiarity bias, you have to give them some kind of touch point in. So whether that's celebrating Black writers or other artists, I think even if you just look at my portals online, Facebook and Instagram, I'm constantly resharing and forwarding things on so that they can experience that or hear that thought in real time, and that's introducing it to them.
Okay.
So
I like that. What about you?
I haven't taught in years, so like in that environment, I'm not sure what I do, but I do tend to, I think, talk about things in mixed company that people don't always talk about in mixed company, because it introduces sometimes concepts and ideas that other people may not have heard of, which sometimes can open them up. Like, for instance, I think at this point most people know who Ntozake Shange is, but like, so some people maybe don't, or they don't know they don't know things like spell number 7 or whatever. Because I attended Spelman, we not only learned the classical canon that is usually taught in predominantly white institutions, but they made sure we learned all of the canon that's like the Black institutions, like the August Wilsons, that like we went through a whole gambit of
Lorraine Hansberry, all that.
Yeah, all of that. So I think having those conversations around more people with the weight that they deserve in environments with other Black artists and with white artists, because that's a part of what starts to bring things into people's awareness. I did a campaign as a part of actually for The Advocate. They did where they picked people from history, and they had me basically, they dressed me up as Lorraine Hansberry, and I got to talk about kind of like her contribution of things. But having those conversations as a sideline or calling people out about some of that stuff sometimes helps too. And it's also just what you're willing to cast. Like, the part of why I became a producer wasn't because I initially wanted to be a producer. Like, I was an actor, and I was like, well, if people aren't going to put me in things, I'll make stuff, and I will learn how to do that. And I have an affinity for some business stuff that other people didn't. But it's like, okay, it's the same thing. It's like knowing when to say the no. Like, if they're like, well, if you put a white person in this, no, I want this to be 3 Black women as the lead in this piece.
But see, this is funny. See, this goes to exactly what you're talking about in your article. Now, Audra McDonald plays this role that's usually done by a white girl, but when it's done by a Black woman, it is different because the perspective changes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that same thing. So how I do it, Aaron, I do a lot of assignments, as you know. So when I do an assignment, and say it's based on a book, I will more than likely composite some characters to become one of the leads is Black somewhere. And wasn't written that way, but I'll do it intentionally. And when they see what I did and why and how it works with the story, it usually works. You know, so that's my way of doing it. Almost, you know, all the scripts I've written, every script, there's at least one lead who's Black. Even if I write an all-white character, it's somebody will be in there. And they're not just the person who comes and goes, can I get your look? They ain't doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my way of doing it. I make sure every project has at least one of us with somebody who has agency. They're not the one dying. You know what I mean? All that.
I mean, that's the part of the challenge, is that these are institutions, and that the weight of the institutions, like, I mean, you look at like Yale or even CalArts, you know, like, these predominantly white institutions have the weight because they've been around for a long time, and people have given them the weight because that's the people who graduated from there were the ones that got cast, because the business was predominantly leaning towards white audiences and white people, right? So it's hard to shift the institutions themselves, but what we can do is try and do our work, do it well, and then start trying to create things of our own. I think trying to do things independently and also support people that you may not have leaned towards before because somebody else may have more cachet or may have gotten farther, but realize those barriers and things that artists of color had to go through may not have allowed them to reach to blank place in their career journey, right? But you can choose to be uplifting them and focused on them and bringing them into people's consciousness and be seeking out people like that to amplify so that we begin to get more and more eyes on them in a wider way.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, I'm Yusuf Nash, Air Force veteran, son of Iraqi immigrants, and a huge nerd. Speaking of like Ingmar Bergman and like talking about like being comfortable in both mediums, like what do you feel like? What is the thing you love most about stage and being in front of the camera? And do you also feel like doing both helps informs like your acting skills and like either one? You know, the same thing with your writing too. Like, do you think being on stage and being in front of the camera helps like inform everything as the whole thing as a creator?
I love that question so much. I have to think of the short way to answer that because if I could. So in New York, I regularly see plays all the time, and I'm always marveling when I see a play. I'm marveling at how the language is used, like in real time, to create the moment. So really, it's the actor is doing really that heavy lifting in the theater because you're not stopping to set up back up again. So I'm literally watching. I feel like when I'm watching a great play, it doesn't just have to be on Broadway. There's phenomenal work off Broadway or in other theater houses I've seen across the world. But when it's done in its finest form, you're literally seeing like an Olympic athlete, wrestle with the language and perform and compete. Film is really about the it's a much more technical craft that where it's our point. The camera is directing our attention on something. So I think yes, you can be an actor who's highly skilled in both, but I'm paying attention to different things, whether I'm watching a film versus a play. So I feel like in the play I'm paying attention to the language, and on film I'm paying attention to how the filmmaker is using the camera to shape my consciousness. Right, and then everything is a part of serving that vision, from the score, to sometimes the way music is used in a score, just like in Sinners. Like I'm pretty sure that's gonna win the Oscar is for best score. Just how it's used, it just elevates the image, and it's like that poetry that emerges. So. Yeah, I think they're two different skill sets. You can still have emotional, like I don't always like that argument that people make of acting on stage is so different from acting on film, that you still need the common denominator of emotional truth. Right? And sometimes there might be a difference of size, but that's only because you have to play to an 1,800 seat auditorium.
You don't have to project on film.
Exactly. Yeah. But I've also seen plays like when I see Laurie Metcalf do a play, Little Bear Ridge Road, the acting that she's doing is no different than an on camera. It's still really grounded in naturalism. Right. So, each time I sit in either a cinema or in the theater, I definitely look for recognizing like my shared humanity with those characters.
I would say even though I haven't acted since 2004, 2005, for me, I feel like it's still like an important element for me because it comes from, And partly because I was a dancer too. So I have like choreography. Like me and my producing partner Pamela, who I've told you about many times, whenever we write stuff, we're called writer duet is what we're called, like as a team. And she comes from Broadway, from New York. And, you know, I come from the theater and hip hop and everything. And so together when we write, people read our scripts, like it's so poetic, like the way that you guys move. We call it pin choreography. You know what I mean? So I use what I was as an actor, as a dancer, as a filmmaker, as a writer. I put it on the page that way. So even when I'm giving somebody notes, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm like, this could be so much more visual if you did these things. And Keisha know, you know, Joshua know now, you know what I mean? You know, like I'm always looking at it from that point of view.
Hill
You
gets
know,
great
that.
notes.
Thank you. And but I'm just trying to help you think. I'm not trying to rewrite you. I'm
No,
just trying to,
no, not at all.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go, here's another thing you could look at, and it'll elevate not only the story, but the writing. You know what I mean? So shit like that. What you get?
I would say more from an acting perspective than from what I watch, but like theater is different than on the camera for me, but it's a part of it is the energy in the room. So like for me, theater, you're creating something energetically in concert with the audience that just does something different. Like each performance is different. It's also like different with the people that you're on the stage with too. Even like everything is like
And the audience energy could make you a certain way too.
Yeah, I did the last tour I did was a while back, but I did Trip to Bountiful with Cicely Tyson and Blair and Vanessa, and because I was understudying Vanessa, I had to watch the performances every night because God bless and God rest her, Miss Tyson was not going to rehearse with the understudies every day. She was in her 90s. Watching the precision and the different, you could see what the performance was on one night, but then like when I actually did the performance, like my version of Jessie May, I had to hit all the same spots because when you're an understudy, you have to do that. But my performance, we had fire between us that was very different than her energy with Vanessa. Like there was just more like in the way that we interacted with each other as the characters. And by the time we did the second performance of it, it was even more of that. So it's like the energy of all of us on the stage together plus the audience gives you something different, right? Whereas in a film, it's like you're trying to catch the nuances that, you know, especially depending on whether or not you're close or far away. I tend to give a full performance even if the camera's not on me so that the person I'm working with gets what they need. Not every actor does that. I understand why. It's just whatever their technique is, they may not be able to pull out the crying at the same level more than once, whereas that's not something that's a problem for me, so I actually can give it to people that way. And there's like almost something that you can take from the theater stuff. Like I did an episode of Criminal Minds a while back, and like the character playing opposite me was this total, like the character was a racist. And so like when I'm doing my takes, I'm doing it like in character, completely natural, all that. But when the camera was turned on him, I deliberately made my lines more like vitriolic and more angry and more this, like, so that it would be like what this racist might see or feel a black woman was talking to him, like, so that he had it. And it was like, so because you could see the look on his face, he's like, oh, I see what you're doing, right? But it's like it that's something that gives you something different on camera that's not what you can do on stage at all. Like you can't manipulate that or play with that when you're on a stage, whereas when you're on camera you can kind of play with that. And if you're not the director, you can't control what take they're going to use. So they could pick something totally different that's not what you thought was your performance or your best thing. Or sometimes it is, but it may be they're trying to say something different about that character's storyline than what you crafted in the way that you did your performance, but they think that they need that to make something else stronger, right? So like if you're not directing it, there's a surrender that you give on camera that you don't, when you on stage, you just got to deal with the fuck I do because I'm there. You know what I'm saying? No, because I'm the one out there. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one out there. They are going to get the performance that they get that I bring to them and bring to the other people that I'm having the joy to play with on that day on a stage, you know? I like them both. They're just different. There is something too about being able, that thing about your place or being able to take up space. I feel like I can take up so much space in a theater. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's something that like my energy is totally able to fill that space and that there's an expectation of that and a joy in it that, that other thing that sometimes people get about like not wanting people to take up as much space you don't get in the theater. Like when you
Yeah.
own it on the stage, you own it on the stage, and you get to do that.
Yeah. Totally agree.
I saw Trip the Bountiful. I would have loved to have seen.
I did
seen
the Boston performance when they toured. Yeah.
That's dope. Well, thank you, Adam, man. Appreciate you coming to hang out with us today.
Oh, thank you. This is such an awesome conversation.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's
Thank-
lovely to.
Thank you, Katie, for bringing him in with us. Thank you. Cut back to him. Where can we follow you? Instagram, Twitter, wherever.
Yeah, Instagram, Acting with Adam, or Facebook, Adam Davenport Official.
And where can people read the article if they haven't seen it yet, the essay?
I think it's pinned on my Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
What about you, Dalila? Where you at?
I'm Dalila Ali Rajah everywhere. DALILAALIRAJAH on everything. Everything. Yeah.
She said it like a rap thing, didn't she? And I'm your host, Hilliard Guess. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, everything. I say Twitter like I'm cool, just so you know. Instagram, Facebook. We have a new YouTube channel, Screenwriters Rant Room, screenwritersrantroom.com. Get your t-shirts, get your hoodies. Check out the archives page. You see everything about me. You'll learn the things that I support on there. And we are now open for sponsorship. So hook a brother up. If any of you guys have any dope products out there you want to, welcome to Hollywood. What's your dream? You guys have any dope products out there you guys want to blast out there and support, holler at me, screenwritersrantroom@gmail.com, and we'll make it happen for you. All right? Everybody, join in with me for Game All Day, including you, Adam, including you, Katie, everybody else. Thank you again to my man Joshua on the ones and twos. I call the camera the ones and twos, just so you know. Everybody in the building, Keisha, my man Yusuf, Aaron, and of course Katie again. Thank you guys. You guys know how we're doing on the Rant Room. On the show, we keep it real. We keep it opinionated. We keep it what, everybody?
Game all day.
Peace, y'all.